Hi, Assalamu alaikum. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the last session of the day, but this is one not to be missed because as we celebrate the Arabian Travel Market's 30th anniversary, we are also looking back on the meteoric growth of the United Arab Emirates and the success in tourism that this region has witnessed. And what a better panel than what we have today to talk about it, to reflect on the achievements, and to also help us understand a little bit more of what we can expect going forward. So allow me to introduce these wonderful guests. Hor Al-Khaja is Associate Vice President, International Operations at Dubai's Department of Economy and Tourism. She's looking after DET's network of global source markets for tourism. She has played a key role in driving growth to Dubai, tourism growth to Dubai, and placing it as a leisure and business destination on the global stage. We also have Iyad Razbi, Executive Director, Destination Development for Ras Al Khaimah, driving the continued growth for the Northern Emirate as it continues its meteoric rise on the tourism stage. And then we have Mohammed Abdallah Al-Zabi, Group CEO for Miral and Middle East Visionary CEO of the Year. Under Mohammed's leadership, Miral has been leading a number of projects helping to differentiate Abu Dhabi to diversify its economy and improve the tourism sector. Guy Hutchinson, President and CEO of Rotana, recently named as one of the most influential hotel leaders in the Middle East. In parallel to ATM's 30th year anniversary, Rotana is also celebrating 30th anniversary this year. Congratulations. This started in the UAE, I believe. And last but not least, Mira Ketait. She is Head of Retail and Leisure at Dinata, which is the UAE's longest serving travel provider and part of the Emirates Group. Now, tremendously expanding the portfolio of business across the entire spectrum of travel, Dinata has been supporting the growth of domestic tourism and looking outwardly as well. So without further ado, I would love to ask Hor to reflect on what have the UAE achieved in the last 3 decades and what's behind that success.
First of all, thank you so much for having us. It's an honor to share the stage with my fellow panelists. I think what the UAE has done tremendously well, UAE in general and Dubai specifically, is the foresight of the leadership to have invested in a space, the travel and tourism space. So anywhere from the aviation sector to hospitality to all of the tourism enablers, it really took a lot of vision to mobilize the entire city and country together to really envision where the region is today. I mean, who would have imagined it 30 years ago? It was kind of like a huge risk. A lot of countries and a lot of cities talk about private and public partnership, but no one does it like the UAE, and no one does it like Dubai. When there's a unified vision from the leadership, from the top, the entire city mobilizes for the benefit of the city and the people in the city. So it's really a win-win situation for everyone, and we've really seen that transpire. And maybe I'll end that on, it's transpired in a way that it's not just a success for the UAE or for Dubai, it's a success in the sense that we're not a regional destination. You know, we're a global destination in our own right, and we have other destinations looking to us to learn from this experience, despite us being younger than many of them, than many of the known destinations. And I think that really speaks to the efforts of the UAE leadership and also everyone involved in the public and private sector.
Absolutely. And on that note, I just want to add the vision, the ambition, and the collaboration between all the stakeholders is incredible. And actually, that leads me to Ras Al Khaimah. What sort of pages are you taking from Dubai's book, and how are you differentiating the destination? A lot of people I speak to about Ras Al Khaimah will say, these guys are punching above their weight. Please help us reflect on that.
Well, thank you for having me, and it's a great panel to end the day with. To your question, the beauty of UAE, that the seven Emirates are quite different. I always say that we complement each other, we don't compete. So what Dubai has to offer to international tourism, or Sharjah, Abu Dhabi, and Ras Al Khaimah, we're all quite different, and we complete each other. So if a traveler or a tourist that is looking for a product that Dubai does not have, they might find it somewhere else. Could be Ras Al Khaimah or any of other destination within the United Arab Emirates. So we keep tourists in UAE rather than losing them somewhere to any other destination. To your question, that how we we're, our positioning Ras Al Khaimah and going a bit aggressive in all our markets. I always say that Ras Al Khaimah is a developing destination. It's one of the fastest developing destinations in this region, and our agility and ability to move quick, especially during the pandemic, did put Ras Al Khaimah on the map. So we were the first in the world to certify Ras Al Khaimah, or the first city to certify as a destination by certifiers like WTTC, Bureau Veritas. We were also able to launch certain initiatives like a return PCR test, which was not offered by anyone else. And this supported Ras Al Khaimah back then to be on the tourism map during and post COVID. And what Ras Al Khaimah, the way Ras Al Khaimah managed COVID-19 is a case study of itself. What also one of the main reasons of our success is us in Ras Al Khaimah believing, behaving, acting like a community. We're a small destination, so you see us working closely with all our stakeholders, working closely with all our partners, all other entities, and we also work closely with our other tourism development authorities. And yeah, we're looking at welcoming 3 million tourists by 2030, and there are a lot of strategies and activities in place to reach that number.
Fantastic. Well, good luck. How has morale helped differentiate Abu Dhabi on a global stage?
I think before that, let me first comment on the anniversary of 30th anniversary of ATM. I think that is just a reflection of a visionary leaders in the UAE who think long term and think of diversification of economy at early time. In 1990 and 1995, few leaders only were thinking about how we can diversify our economy from oil and gas industry. And I think UAE has showcased the world and other countries here in the MENA how we can improve other industry like tourism, for example, and build so many theme parks, attractions to differentiate the country. And numbers of tourists coming to the UAE and Abu Dhabi specifically reflects the success of that story. At Miral, we're trying to play a role to be, or strives to be the most impactful and influential entity in leisure and entertainment. We want to play a role, of course, in Abu Dhabi's vision to be the top global tourism and leisure destination, and by attracting tourists from around the world to come and create unforgettable memories on Saadiyat and Yas Island. We are driven by innovation. We want to think out of the box. We want to come with ideas. And before that, we want to listen to our customers. That's the key of our success. We want to listen to the customer. And a good example is expansion of Warner Brothers. When we had discussion with Warner Brothers, what is the right IP for our expansion? We did a survey actually in GCC, in Europe, and Far East. And Harry Potter came at the top of the list. Since then, we have been discussing with Warner Brothers, and only last year, December, we announced the expansion of Warner Brothers. So that's the way how we differentiate ourselves on Yas Island and differentiate Abu Dhabi as international destination.
Fantastic. Guy, you brought tremendous extensive experience in the hospitality industry from such diverse markets as Japan, India, China, Australia. What, in your view, has helped UAE become one of the most beloved destinations?
You know, I think it's a truly remarkable journey. You know, and sometimes it's hard to understand what's been achieved in such a short period of time. But I think, you know, it's very, very clear how different the model is in this part of the world. And the UAE stands out as an example for me of planning. You know, I was saying earlier, I worked with somebody who told me once, you know, plan the work, work the plan. You know, and that consistency in vision and structure and the importance that's attached to tourism and travel in the region, and the ability to have a 10-year, 15, 20, 25-year plan to develop industry, that is so unusual. There's probably one or two other countries in the world who have either the capability or have actually had the ability or the attention to execute that. So the UAE is absolutely exceptional, and the traction is just phenomenal. And one of my favorite anecdotes about, we were just talking about it recently, is it's great to see how that focus has switched. You know, if you look in the early days of the development of the UAE, developing the industry in the UAE was about bringing the best of the world and giving it a place in here, and that was kind of the stamp of, you know, we've arrived. Now you see how that has changed and how this region is leading globally the industry, and now what you're seeing, be it airlines, attraction management, hotel companies, even restaurant concepts, you're seeing that these concepts, these industries now going out from the UAE into London, and we've just signed our first hotels in London last week. You know, but you're seeing even restaurant concepts going out, born in Dubai or born in the UAE, going out and actually now becoming, that expertise is being exported out of the region and is making a huge impression all around the world. So that switch is a very interesting, and that just shows the quality of what's developed here.
Yeah. I think one of the unique features of this region is that nothing ever seems impossible. Impossible is possible in the UAE. So how do you think this helps differentiate? How does that translate into decision making, into interaction between the different stakeholders, between the government and the private and, you know, the consumer? Sort of, how do you actually make that happen from, like, Rotana's perspective?
There's an absolutely superior level of coordination, vision, collaboration around industry, and I've worked in many markets. I've never experienced anything like it, because there's no other market I can think of anywhere in the world where you can have the same conversation with the same leadership group for 10 years about the vision for an industry. You know, that footprint just doesn't exist. And when you've got that consistency, right, when you've got that continuity and that excellence in management leadership in industry, that brings you together no matter how big the destination is. I mean, DET and our colleagues, they bring the CEO stakeholder group together every 8 weeks. We sit and we talk and we plan about what needs to happen with industry, and that kind of integration, collaboration, but more importantly, that longevity, that continuity behind a focus and a plan, that is what sets the UAE completely apart from pretty much anywhere else I've seen. And that's why these things are possible, because if you've got the vision, if you've got the plan, if you've got the will, you can do it over time.
Absolutely. So now zooming in on the domestic tourism, Mira, can you help us reflect on how the UAE domestic tourism has grown over the last 30 years? What the biggest achievements would you mention?
Arabian Travel, being UAE's longest travel service provider over the past 60 years, the UAE has been and still is the #1 destination and preference for the consumers. We've seen massive interest and growth from the consumers from a staycations interest perspective. And I mean, if we just reflect on the COVID period, 2020 and 2021, where at that time we have released a consumer travel trend survey, and 91% of the consumers were interested more in exploring destinations such as Ras Al Khaimah, and then followed by Fujairah and Dubai. What the UAE has to offer, besides the updates on the travel and the safety and health measures that the country is really up to date on, the scenery and the advanced portfolio of hotels from global names that keeps the consumer interested and keeps domestic tourism really alive. And in Arabian Travel, we align with that strategy of the United Arab Emirates to promote UAE as the hub and as a pure touristic destination. And I think it's really interesting to see, with all the growth that happened in the UAE, people are still keening on exploring more of the hidden gems within the country. So whether it's the mountain escapes or the beach retreats, or even in the middle of city, whether it's Dubai or Fujairah or you name it, there is massive interest from the consumers.
Amazing. Mohammed, so Miral has done phenomenal work in bringing the world to Abu Dhabi and helping people have a great time, amazing experiences when they come. Can you briefly share your perspective on how Miral has aligned with the economic vision of Abu Dhabi, wider vision of the UAE, what's behind the success?
As I said, we want to play a role in contributing to Abu Dhabi's vision to become top global destination. And I think that can be done only by very close coordination and alignment between us as one of the stakeholders and DCT who look after the vision of Abu Dhabi. So close coordination, close alignment with them, and being active in achieving our goals. We always try to deliver a comprehensive experience for our customers. We want to have a 360 solution for our customers. We think as customers before we design our project, and that I think the success behind, or the factor behind our success. Hence you see in Yas Island, for example, the master plan, and we are very proud of the master plan. We literally thought about every single member of the family, how we can cater for every member of the family, and how we can cater even every segment of the market. So we have 3-star hotel, we have service apartment, we have themed hotel, we have 5-star hotel, and we have a hotel that at the heart of the racetrack, and that's very unique master plan. Compounded that by number of retail, F&B, waterfront retail, a shopping mall with the retail element, and a golf course. That is very unique master plan. And I think that's the reason behind the success of Yas and as a destination, and that would contribute directly to Abu Dhabi's vision.
Have you seen any particular experiences becoming more or less important to global visitor or local visitor after the pandemic in comparison to how things were, let's say, back in 2019? Do you see a shift? Do you see a preference? Do you see any notable changes? Does that inform the vision?
There is a shift, there's no doubt, but I think the shift is more into allowing customer to have freedom to customize and tailor the experience. In old days, we had window to impose some of the experiences or a certain package, but today, customers want to have freedom to do whatever they want. They want to customize, tailor their experience at their home. And it's become very competitive because with the social media, with the digital, everything became available at on their phones. So how you can be competitive yet provide a very convenient experience for the customers, a very informative tool to customize and package their experience. Therefore, 2 weeks back, we worked with Microsoft, Bain & Co, and OpenAI to integrate ChatGPT on our website. So now our customers can log into our website, yasr.com, can open a live tool together with ChatGPT. They can express their preferences, whatever they would like to do, and the system will automatically, smartly tailor a package for them that will suit their preferences.
It sounds you're already on trend on the latest AI inspirations. Fantastic. Guy, actually going back a step on infrastructure and connectivity. So in your mind, in the UAE, will we sort of see more of a development? Does there have to be more interconnectivity between the different UAE states? What's in your mind kind of the missing element to amplify the success of what we've been seeing in different Emirates at the moment?
Yeah, I think one of the things that the Emirates have done really effectively is to create complementary experiences. So there's not a competition. There's very sort of well differentiated experiences as you go through the Emirates. I think we started to see a little bit of a develop in the last 2 years, but I think absolutely that there's definitely scope to create more connectivity across those experiences, because you've got an amazing entertainment hub on Yas Island, which is really, I mean, world class. And then you've got adventure tourism and then Ras Al Khaimah. You've got Dubai. You've got the cultural elements of Abu Dhabi. So I think there are very, very strong experiences that have evolved in each of the Emirates. And if there was an increased focus to create a little bit more connectivity between them, I think, yes, we would present an even stronger proposition to global travel.
So actually, rolling off of that, Mira, in what you're seeing in the market in terms of trends, what's hot at the moment, what's developing, how do you see that translate in going into future?
I think it's really noticeable for us to see the trend that's growing in the internal and the residents of the UAE, where they're constantly looking for what's new in terms of visiting and exploring. And the city has so much to offer. I mean, all 7 Emirates have so much to offer. And they would rely heavily on coming back to us in the Not to Travel and our travel experts to rely on what's suitable for them, what would make their stay in a staycation best. So what a family would be looking for is very different than what a couple would be looking for to enjoy the domestic tourism. We've also noticed a trend in forward booking as well, and it's been an interesting quarter, the beginning of 2023 for us to see. It's historically been a last-minute market, but we're seeing people book in advance. People are concerned about availability, prices, you name it, and people are more aware and started planning much in advance, which was something that we have not witnessed in the past. And I think it's also noticeable that while people still plan for their international travel, and with the summer break coming up, they're still planning partially, bits of it, to still explore domestically. And I mean, if you look at the stats in Eid al-Fitr holiday that we had just a couple of weeks ago, majority of the residents decided to enjoy their 4 days off with the family or friends domestically. And that's why the staycations has really got the spike of interest from the domestic tourism. So there is a behavioral change in people's buying behavior, people's planning behavior as well, and how they would like to spend and enjoy their time. Also, there's constant lookout for the hidden gems. So you see destinations like, or cities like Hatta getting more interest from the consumers, or even exploring more of the unique resorts and the unique hotels that are offered in the UAE. And that's where the portfolio size of the hotels availability in the UAE is really important and gives that strength, where if you tried something once, you always have the opportunity to go back or try so many others. So it's really, really broad.
Interesting. And I saw Hor was very much nodding her. Would you like to add anything to that?
So I think she's absolutely right when it comes to, I was really focusing on her point with the changing trends, right? So definitely we monitor the elements like, the change in booking lead times, the change in the way the consumers are choosing to search and purchase travel. And if we keep targeting them in the same way that we used to, before pandemic or during pandemic, you're not going to reach those customers anymore. So if you don't have the agility to change your marketing strategy and your targeting strategy with the changing trends, then you're not gonna, the train is already left the station,
Absolutely. Anyone else want to add on this point? I saw a few of you nodding.
No, I mean, I totally agree with Hor and Mira that today we need to understand that the consumer behavior have changed from markets that are traditional markets or source markets for us, and to Hor's point that we have to change our approach or base our approach on that behavior.
So just coming back to Dubai, so it's been named #1 destination for global travelers, 2nd year in a row. Congratulations.
Thank you.
So what do you think stands behind that? How do you remain competitive? What's your secret sauce? What's the strategy?
So it's honestly impossible to do this question justice in a panel, but maybe I'll focus on 3 main things that we can reflect on for the past year or 2 since post-pandemic. Number 1, I think one thing Dubai did really well in the last 2 years, or let's say since 2020, is that despite all the chaos that was going on in the world, we really committed to continuing to reinvent ourselves. We stuck to all of the plans that we had. We saw the iconic Museum of the Future open. We saw the iconic Atlantis the Royal open. We kept investing in the industry with all of the partners locally and even internationally. You know, I had the international operations division, and I will tell you from the beginning of the pandemic till now, we never pulled back on any of our international trade partners. You know, we stuck by them knowing that it's a difficult time in the industry, and we knew that they needed the support, and we came back. So that's one thing that I think as a city, we did really well. Second is, again, touches on the point of the changing consumer behavior. The type of traveler is changing, the values they seek are also changing. So one good example of that in just this past year is, you know, we're seeing people choose travel for different reasons than they did before. One example being sustainability being a key theme. It's a key theme in the UAE. It's a key theme for Dubai with the hosting of the COP28. So if we as a city did not take real responsible decisions to really move towards a more sustainable future, you know, we wouldn't be able to convince or attract those travelers who are really serious about those values and really choose where to go based on those values. So I think we did that very well as well. And sustainability is just one example. There's many. And the last point is diversification. So prior to the pandemic, our strategy was always to diversify source markets. So we never relied on 1, 10, or even 30 source markets. We always actively marketed in over 50. This really came to life post-pandemic when a lot of markets were shut down. There was a lot of instability. But because of the diversification strategy, it really helped us stay afloat. And if you look at the numbers of this year in Q1, even with the absence of huge markets like China, with the absence of air capacity, we're not back to 2019 levels in air capacity, but we've already reached 98% of the same Q1 in 2019. So we're just 2 percentage points short, and some markets have already exceeded 2019, even with existing capacity issues. Those are my 3 learnings from this past 2 years.
Very good. Actually, China just opened up, right? And Dubai makes top 10 in the Chinese consideration list of places to visit. So how reactive are you to that market? Like, how quickly do you go back to the market, put Dubai back on the, front and mind to consumers?
We're already there. So China was top 10 before pandemic. We missed them for 3 years. We're back online now. We're looking at a very, the airlines industry is extremely supportive in the ramp up. It's one of the markets they give huge priority for. We already restarted all of our both B2B and B2C partnerships, campaigns. I think we're very soon, sooner than later, the entire country and the city will see China back to business as usual, and we're very excited about that because it's a market that we really welcome to UAE and to Dubai.
Amazing. Iyad, so your ambition is to reach 3 million visitors by 2023. Sustainability is, of course,
so you don't
sorry,
put
20.
more pressure on me. Yeah.
I thought I could get away with that, raising the bar. But okay, by 2030. But I'm sure that you will be there and perhaps exceed those numbers nonetheless. So how are you going to achieve that? But also, how are you going to achieve that sustainably so that you respect the greenness, the nature of your environment, that you have that sustainable development, that you attract the right kind of mix of travelers, and we've heard that it's very important to diversify. How do you influence such complexity and make it all work?
Well, look, I mean, we closed 2022, our numbers superseded 2019 numbers, so we've received in Ras Al Khaimah on 1,130,000 tourists, and this was a record for us. And I think we're one of the few destinations that were able to go back or supersede 2019 visitor numbers. To Ho's point as well, we share the same strategy in diversifying in markets. If you look at Ras Al Khaimah 5-6 years ago, we were depending a lot on our traditional source markets, 5-6 of them. Now we have a physical presence in 17 countries or markets. We cover more than 32 overseas markets from West and East Europe, north to south. CIS countries. Of course, we're tackling Latin America, South Africa. India is an important source market for us, GCC, and we're going towards East as well, with, with China and Hong Kong. But our approach there is quite different. Ras Al Khaimah is not a mass destination. We're limited compared to Dubai in number of rooms, but we're developing that, and it's a market that we're building on for the future. In terms of development and to reach this number, you need to develop your infrastructure. You need to increase the number of rooms in your destination and attractions. So we're looking at adding 6,500 rooms in the next 4 years. And this is approximately doubling with what we have now. The continuous development in Jebel Jais is there with all the products that differentiate Jebel Jais and position it as an adventure destination within a destination. Our continuous efforts towards our cultural conservation. Ras Al Khaimah is quite rich. We have more than 100 archaeological sites. 4 of them are on the UNESCO tentative list of culture and heritage. And our eco sites, and we're blessed of having the mountain, the desert, and the beautiful beaches of Ras Al Khaimah. And to your question, how can we grow sustainably, if you wish, and this is what keeps me and the team awake every night, is how to reach to a 3 million tourists and maintain your current identity being a nature emirate. And there's an initiative that we've launched a year ago, and we named it by balanced tourism, is how you balance between your growth and your current identity, nature. And there's so many activities that we're applying. We've been working on this the last couple of years. We've partnered with Earth Checks, leaders out of Australia, and putting certain programs for us as a destination and our properties to enable us to grow sustainably. And for a developing destination like us, it's easier to implement such programs. We're still developing. The additional 6,500 rooms, the hotels can be built on a sustainable way, and this is what Earth Checks are doing now.
Yeah, so you can plan, the better you plan, the better you prepare, the more sustainable you can develop.
And even if you look at the pipeline, we control the hotel pipeline, so we make sure we don't have so many hotels opening up at the same time, just to give them the time to build on the rooms and business. So we are following a certain strategy that hopefully by 2030 we'll reach our 3 million tourists in a sustainable way.
Absolutely. Mohammed, so looking at the future, do you have any big numbers that you want to share, commit to officially? Or perhaps you could also tell us a bit more about how excited, how ambitious do you feel about the entertainment industry in the region?
Before that, I have to say that we are very privileged, to be honest, to be here in this market. Support from our leaders, from government, either indirectly or directly. The new legislation, the new policy that has been introduced over the last 24 months helped us a lot to attract more tourists. Visa on arrival, other visas that introduced recently helped us to see growth in number of tourists coming to enjoy their time in Abu Dhabi, or people come to move and call UAE their home. Back to your question, the numbers, I think the UAE has announced their tourism forecast of the year, more than 100 billion dirham investment in the coming years until 2030, and a contribution of 450 billion dirhams by 2030 to our GDP. I think that's great. If I remember correctly, 40 million visits as well by 2030. So we have ambition. We have long, I think, big goals. We had them before, we achieved them, and I have no doubt we'll achieve these numbers. The secret is, I think, move fast, have agility, be creative, don't look behind you. Just do what we have been doing over the last 30 years, and we'll be successful, inshallah. Thanks.
Basically, how else can you challenge yourself, right? Like, how do you come up with a new challenge once you build on what you've already done? Do you have a challenge in mind in terms of, do you have a big vision? Is there sort of another must-have want that you have in your plans, specifically when it comes to bringing another big project, another big development?
There is always a challenge, and I believe the challenge is healthy because that pushes you to be creative and to come with new ideas. That's what we have been seeing on Yas Island. Every time we see a challenge, we try to think out of the box, we come with new ideas. I'm very proud of what my team has done over the last years, thinking creatively and create more reasons to visit Yas Island and Saadiyat. A good example is the number of events we have been hosting on Yas Island. Abdul Majid, last 2 weeks, has been one of the successful events we had in Yas Island. NBA, UFC, Disney on Ice, The Lion King, and I think very soon you will hear more news about coming events to the Yas Island. Some interesting news.
And SeaWorld, you're opening shortly, right? Can you tell us a bit more about that?
SeaWorld is our next flagship, and this is the largest development that Miral has developed so far. More than 183,000 square meter, all indoor. It brought its own challenges, having indoor marine park with a number of animals, it has own challenges, but again, we think out of the box. We were so creative to come with many ideas. One of them I'll share two with you today is the lighting system. So how you can have animals in a closed facility. That was a challenge by itself. So we invented a new lighting system for the first time in the world that emulate the day and time lighting similar to the nature habitat as well as the seasonal lighting over the year. So for example, when you go to Rocky Point, you have sea lion. They will have the day and night cycle of their natural habitat, while dolphin, they will have different timing that suit their natural habitat. That was not easy to achieve. With the support from our partners, we achieved that. And interestingly also, the other thing we have achieved, first time in the world, we will have fish and dolphin in the same aquarium. The filtration system usually either fit for fish only or fit for dolphins, but now with the new technologies, we've managed to have fish and dolphin in the same aquarium. That's very interesting to see. I think customers, when they visit the park, will be very happy. I think there will be many repeated visits, because one visit will not be enough to explore the whole park. Yeah.
Amazing. So that means more days in Abu Dhabi, longer stays, hopefully sort of more interactions and entertainment that people can experience and really get to know the place a little bit better.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, fantastic. Guy, how bullish do you feel about the hospitality industry developments? Maybe even sort of talk about Rotana's growth vision. I know that you're around over 100 hotels now. So from Rotana's perspective, but also from hospitality's industry growth and ambition for the region, what's your vision for the next 10 years?
You know, I think like one of the biggest mistakes that people outside of the UAE or the region make when they look at what happens within the region is context. You know, they look at the context of what's happened in Dubai over the last 20 or 30 years, and they relate that to how would that work in my hometown or my city or my country. What they don't realize is this region writes its own context. You know, and you cannot look at what happens in this region other than with an understanding of what has happened over the past. So for us, when we look at where we are and locations, cities like Dubai, for me, we're just poised at the next point of acceleration. You know, it's not about...
And what's missing? What's going to be the trigger for that acceleration?
There's nothing missing because the planning is there. You know, I think when you look at, if you take Dubai, it's very clear, right? There needs to be another 20,000+ hotel rooms in Dubai over the next 10 years. and it needs to be in resorts. So if you look at the Dubai Islands development and you look at the Palm Jebel Ali development, these are going to be key players in the future of Dubai moving forward to increase that key count. So, the UAE is nowhere near the end of the journey, and I think, and that's the context that's been written here. And when you look at what's happened over the last 10, 15, 20 years, there's no way that you can't have anything else but confidence on what it's going to look like for the next 10 or 20 years. So we're nowhere near the peak of where this country is going to be. It's gone in 20 to 30 years from very little to being now a global powerhouse. Dubai at the end of Q1 this year is the second highest RevPAR of any city in the world, only second to Paris. So look what's going to happen in the next 10 or 15 years moving forward. So we have enormous confidence in what's going to happen in this market. We're going to see the next level of growth, and while we are as a brand very focused on what we do a little bit more globally, because diversification is important, and now 50% of what we do is in the UAE and 50% of what we do is outside of the UAE. But absolutely, there's super opportunity for growth. Yas Island, Abu Dhabi, Dubai Islands, Ras Al Khaimah. I know Ras Al Khaimah done an amazing job in master planning now what they want to do. We're nowhere near where we're going to end. There's still a long journey in front of us and a lot to do, and we're going to play our part in that, and we have supreme confidence in how this is going to look. You're going to see double, tripling of assets going forward in the next 10 years.
Oh, absolutely. Who, do you want to add anything to that? No? Okay, right. Well, actually, I think we will have a little bit of time for the audience questions as well. I see one gentleman over there already eager to ask them.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much indeed for an excellent panel. My name is Imtiaz Maqbul. I'm an editor and journalist from Bangkok, Thailand. The growth of the UAE and the tourism industry as a whole requires a lot of foreigners. You depend a lot on foreigners. How is this going to, as Mr. Hutchinson was talking about another 20,000 rooms, how is this growth going to actually impact on the demographic imbalance? And is that going to be an issue going forward? It is already quite wide, and given the population growth of both the expatriates and the locals, that demographic imbalance is only going to widen, which will create a whole bunch of other social and other issues down the road. Is that going to be a national security issue going forward, and how do you actually plan to address it?
Do you mind if I
go ahead.
Speaking from Dubai's perspective, I think what people, or a lot of us often forget is that Dubai's never been kind of doing this alone. We started even before we joined the United Arab Emirates, before the UAE formed. Dubai was a trading hub, and it understood, the leadership and Sheikh Mohammed's father, Sheikh Rashid, the leadership always understood that in order to thrive in this space, in this desert space, we had to invite people and make them part of the journey. And that's been the narrative, whether it was at that scale or the larger scale that we're aiming for. His Highness Sheikh Mohammed launched the Dubai 33 strategy, D33. And his aim is to not only make Dubai the best place in the world to visit, but also to live and to work. And essentially, the city is extending its arms to everyone who wants to find a better life or a better opportunity, or they want to start up a company here, or they want to move their family business or their multinational here. We are holding no bars and really extending our hands even more than we already have to everyone in the world. And that's how we've always thrived. I'm a Dubai national. I was born here, I went to school here. I never knew a time in my life where I was not surrounded by different nationalities, different people. It's weird not to be. That's part of Dubai's story, it's part of the fabric of our society, it's part of our vision. And obviously there's a space in that for Emiratis. D33 has 7 components of the strategy. And one of the components is really creating jobs for Emiratis, and especially pushing them into the private sector, where we see more and more demand for the type of skills that we want Emiratis to enter into this space. Safety and security will continue to be Dubai's #1 priority. We have a wonderful collaboration with our, our police force, our security measures. It's something Dubai is never going to compromise on. And so they're very much part of the strategy, and we'll continue to deliver, world-class with everyone else involved. We have 200 nationalities living here today. We invite everyone to be part of our story because we can't do it alone, and we don't want to do it alone.
Well, no, I agree. No, I agree with Hor, and our tourism only enhances the livability of any country. So the jobs that are created, a lot of investors come to countries because of tourism, and we've seen it in many destinations and markets. Plus, I mean, going back to security and safety, I mean, Hor, I'm sure meant the whole UAE, not only Dubai. We go out and promote proudly UAE and our Emirates that were known to be one of the safest countries in the world, and we leverage on that. So no, I totally agree with what Hor said, and we all work closely on promoting the whole country from a tourism and business or investment perspective.
In fact, I remember Hor speaking very recently about safety perhaps not even being played highly enough in terms of how you advertise the destination, right? Because especially, for women traveling, either, solo travelers, etc., generally speaking, we've been seeing globally that safety has become such a priority, whether it comes to luxury travelers, whether it comes to family travel, for all kinds of people across all age ranges. Safety has become real concern and priority after the pandemic. Maybe you could help us understand how that could actually become an advantage and how that sort of needs to be communicated to the outworld.
Yes, I think it's because we live here, and most of us live here. The UAE, we really take it for granted. We only notice certain behaviors when we travel. Like, if you're at a food court in Dubai Mall, you want to save your table, what do? You keep your purse on the chair and you go order your food and you come back. When you're abroad, in many countries, you can't do that, and we really take that for granted. I like to give this anecdote. I used to live on Sheikh Zayed Road, right across, like literally on Sheikh Zayed Road, across the Museum of the Future where the Crown Plaza is. I lived there before I moved to my house. I wouldn't think twice about going down to grab like something from the grocery at 3 a.m. by myself, And we really don't, I feel like we don't really push this narrative because we take it for granted, but we see more and more that this is a key decision when it comes to family travel, women, friends, trips, solo travel, all of these elements. And I think we're seeing a bit more of it now. I've seen it in the last year or so. But it's something that I've always felt that we don't speak enough about. Maybe all of us as a joint responsibility, like UAE really stands out on the map with this, and it's something that people really look for when they travel.
Great. Do we have any other questions from the audience? If not, I'd just like to ask my whole panel here. So in your view, what is the one main thing that you're most excited about when we think about the UAE tourism in the next decade? You can expand on that as well. We have a little bit of time. So, Mira, would you like to start?
I think what we're seeing from terms of development in the regional tourism and the halo effect it will have on the UAE positively in terms of attracting the tourists to the region and making the UAE even more popular in terms of what it has to offer and what it has to basically connect to the region. While people visit the region and selective destinations and will also stop by the UAE. So as we see the growth in the region, this is really important for us in the UAE to see that growth as well happening. And second point is, I think it's important to note as well that we have the best in Dubai and the best in UAE for everything. We have the biggest hotels, the best theme parks, the most amazing services that you could ask for, and the value for money. And it's time to really explore more the experiential tourism and all the new initiatives that Dubai specifically is leading, whether it's gastronomy tourism and gastronomy travel, for example, and the food scene in Dubai and the kind of experiences you would get in Dubai just if you're a foodie and you just want to hop from one restaurant to another and try different cuisines. So it's attracting a different segment, I would say, of customers, medical tourism, gastronomy, you name it. And this is the exciting bit because you would see a shift from people who just want to see Dubai and want to experience things in Dubai and the UAE and get to explore more of the cultural elements as well and more live like a local, like we say. I think the revenge travel period post the pandemic is over, and now people are more about the value of what they could get best in their travel experiences, and it's an exciting time.
Honestly, if I look at the next 10 years and the development of tourism, I think the thing I'm most excited about is the things that I don't know yet. you know,
What else is coming, right?
Yeah, I mean, who would have guessed that 5 years ago we would have had a Louvre in Abu Dhabi, or or SeaWorld, or these are things that we never imagined. Even 5-6 years ago, in tourism we looked at Ramadan as a period of low occupancy. Now the focus is not to put Ramadan to the side, but to actually turn Ramadan into a highlight of cultural tourism, to attract people to actually travel to the destination to experience what Ramadan offers. So the speed and the pace and the development of what happens in this region, I think, we don't know what's yet to come. We know there's going to be some amazing stuff in the next 10 years, and I really look forward to discovering what those things are.
Yeah, and actually, I've got a follow-up question on that. So we didn't know what to expect after the pandemic as well, did we? We then saw suddenly this blended trip explode as a category. We saw luxury, premium luxury really explode. But equally, we saw a lot of people saying they're very sensitive to the pricing in travel. From the hotelier's perspective, how do you balance all of these changes, and how do you prepare yourself? How do you future-proof your strategy with that?
We've always been a very resilient, agile, adaptable industry. And I think, for me, it's not even revenge travel. I think what we're experiencing now is not revenge travel at all. I think what we're experiencing now is the fruits of the effort and the planning that went in throughout COVID to create and maintain this amazing platform of quality of experience that we have in the UAE. And what COVID helped to do is to focus some parts of the world that maybe didn't understand it to really get the context of what is happening here and then build on that. So I think the quality of the experience, that tourism experience that's been built in the UAE around safety, security, attraction, airline, hotels, I think that has been brought into focus, and other parts of the world, traditional markets, are traveling here in higher numbers, and other parts of the world are now discovering it based on what they've seen, and they're willing to support the value of that experience going forward. So I think that value proposition that's being created here is what's driving this, because it is something different. It is something superior to many parts of the world, and that has a value. And I think more and more people are discovering and understanding the value of that experience and are prepared to invest in it. So we see that moving forward. We no longer compare to 19. It's about comparing to last year and next year. It's about growth. And it's not revenge for me. It's just a further evolution of the quality of the platform we have here in tourism and travel and the value that has.
Great. Mohammed, what are you most excited about for the next 10 years?
I would agree with Guy. I think it's difficult to tell, but what I would say, what's coming in the future would be an image or reflection of what happened in the last 10 years in the UAE. Yas Island is a good example. Think about it, just 15 years back, it was empty land. Not a single attraction was in Yas Island. The first race we had in 2010, that's only 13 years back, and today we have one of the most attractive destinations in the region. And I think the future what will happen is 2 or 3 times fold what we have seen over the last 15 years in the UAE. Again, I would give credit to our visionary leaders, the policies and the governance here in the UAE, and support to innovation and creativity. I think having the Minister of AI in the UAE pushing innovation, where you have Year of Innovation, is just a reflection how we think the future will look like. We are privileged to be here in the UAE, and I think there is no limit. The limit is only our brain and our thinking, only our imagination, I would say, our limitation. Thank you.
Iyad?
Well, I can see growth, definitely, and excited to see what's next. But there's one thing I think we all, as Seven Emirates or our industry, nevertheless, if it was the tourism boards or tourism authorities or any other, the hospitality, DMCs, everyone should be involved. Now we're leading, yes, but we're not alone in this region. We've enjoyed a good maybe 10 years, 15 years that it was only us who's promoting themselves as a tourism destinations. Now we have others that are doing so, and competition is always great, but I think we need to work more closely together and plan ahead of time, all of us. And what I see, I mean, I've been enjoying the growth for the last 23 years in my career here in UAE, in this industry, and I look forward. I only can see growth.
So I think one of the main things is all my fellow panelists and I, we have a shared goal that was announced, as Mohammed mentioned, by His Highness, which is 40 million by 2030,
Yep.
7 years. So that's exciting. You know, we have a shared goal, and we know that we all have to keep growing and keep pushing. Personally, what I'm really excited about, I think the region, the country, and Dubai and Abu Dhabi as well, we finally gotten the recognition that we long deserved when it comes to gastronomy specifically. It's almost unbelievable that we didn't have the accolades that we do now with the arrival of Michelin and the arrival of other such accolades. Because really, with all of the nationalities we have here, basically, you have all the authentic flavors of the world. I always think that there's no better place to find authentic flavors than UAE and then Dubai. And I'm really excited to what's to come now further in this space after the world finally woke up to the fact. And it's very, very exciting as a foodie.
Great. Well, I'm sure we have a lot of avid travelers in the audience. I'm one of them. I have a book from, it was printed in 1995. It's a Lonely Planet book about all the different destinations around the world. And it's got UAE in it. And the way that the book describes the destination is that it's a really small, hot, but lovely sort of destination with fishing villages, buzzing culture. And when I read that, I thought, wow, how far this region has grown, how far things have changed. And Guy's absolutely right. It's almost impossible to imagine what's coming in the next 10, 20, let alone 30 years. But the world is excited to see how it all happens. So we wish you all the best of luck in your big plans, big ambitions, and realizing those. Thank you very much for your time and being on the panel today. Thank you, audience, for staying with us until the end. With 2 minutes to spare, have a great evening. And once again, congratulations to the Arabian Travel Market on the 30th year anniversary.